Hi guys, it's Bay Moon here, and I just want to make a little video about Tasseomancy, or tea leaf reading. I came to begin reading tea leaves when I purchased my first tarot set. When I purchased my first tarot set, it came with a book, and I began reading the book meanings of the cards. So I studied the meanings, and for all I gained a little knowledge, they never seemed very in-depth or truly sat well with me. And I was more interested in the symbolism in the cards. There was something drawing me to the symbolism. It was something that I didn't quite understand fully. So I was thinking about it on and off for a couple of weeks. And a thought kept popping into my head. Tea leaves, tea leaves, tea leaves. So I began looking at tea leaf reading and the way it's practiced, and for me it was a brilliant way of getting used to symbology and what symbols mean, my own intuitive meaning. Now I must just say firstly in this video, this is my opinion. This is the way that I read the tea leaves. I'm not saying that I'm correct. There are so many schools of thought, and a lot of people don't agree with me. They believe that there are set meanings, but I have always read intuitively. Also, the recipe that I use for the tea, there are a couple of herbs in the tea that can cause issues. There's mugwort in there. If you're pregnant, you shouldn't take mugwort. And there's lemongrass, which can have an effect on your blood pressure, lowering your blood pressure. So if you are hypertensive or you do have problems with your heart or blood pressure, please don't use lemongrass in the tea. I am a nurse, but I am not able to prescribe homeopathic remedies. Please, if you are going to use any herbal recipes whatsoever, make sure that you do check them out and make sure that they're not contraindicative to any condition that you have. So anyway, reading the leaves. So the first thing I do is I brew my tea, which is what I've got in the pot here. I'll pour myself a cup whilst we're discussing it. So the tea I make, I use 3 parts of Earl Grey tea, and for the final 4th part to make up the whole, I use 1 part of lavender. Lavender is very cleansing and protective. I use 1 part of mugwort, which is good for divination and clairvoyance, and I use 1 part of lemongrass, which aids in psychic abilities and psychicism. So again, they make up a whole part, so realistically they're 1/3 of a part each. What I do is I brew my tea for 3 to 5 minutes, and then I pour into a cup. Okay. The cup itself is a round, wide-brimmed cup, which is best for reading, I find. It has a white inside so you can see what's going on. Excuse me while I take a sip. With any form of divination, I always anoint myself with a protection oil that I make, and I anoint a candle. I light a black candle for protection for any form of divination, because I think a lot of the time divination can be taken for granted and can be seen sometimes as a game where it's very serious, but the name divination, we're communicating with the divine and with the energies of spirits. So it's something that I feel we need to take quite seriously, and that we do need to protect ourselves. I also like to burn a protection incense, which I've got going at the moment, for whilst I'm doing so. But anyway, with that, you enjoy your cup of tea. I use Earl Grey because I love the flavour of bergamot, and it disguises the somewhat acrid taste of mugwort. It can be a very, very bitter herb at times. With the tea, you can take milk if you wish, or sweeten it. I prefer to drink tea black, unless it's my first morning cup of English tea, which I have very strong with a drop of milk. But with regards to the tea leaves, just whilst I'm drinking my cup, I thought I would have a quick look into the history of Tasseomancy for you. And what I found was it became popular in the 17th century, so in the 1600s, when tea was brought across from China into Europe. That's when tea leaf reading became very popular, and it was very popular with the Romany gypsies. Looking at the art of tea leaf reading as we know it today, it's been suggested that actually the way that we read the leaves in the cup stems from Greek practice, where they read from wine dregs. So obviously they brewed quite a lot of red wine. They made their own wine. And what it's believed is the sediment, sort of the bits that were left over in the bottom of the glass after drinking it, people would swirl the glass and tip out the rest of the contents, and they would divine from the sediment that was left on the edges of the glass. Please excuse me, because I am drinking my tea as I'm talking to you. But that's, as I say, a brief history of tea leaf reading. It's something that was very popular because tea got more, the word I'm looking for will not come to me, as tea got more readily available. It was common in every household. It used to be more expensive than gold, but as the price came down and more people had tea, it was a way of reading and telling, sort of fortune telling as they called it. And most housewives in the UK, looking at the history, did used to perform a form of divination with tea leaves. But anyway, back to the reading. With the tea itself, it's best to use loose leaf tea, because that leaves tea leaves in your cup for you to read. While you're making your tea, as you see, I normally make mine in the teapot. It's quite a handy little teapot because it sits on top of the cup and warms the cup as well. I put my tea into the pot, pour in the boiling water, I hold my hand over the pot with the lid off, and I infuse it with my question. I ask my question in my mind. I ask that it's answered by deity and by any pleasant spirits that are present, and I then let the tea brew. Whilst the tea's brewing, I sit and I do a very short meditation just to open myself up, and I then, as you've seen, pour the tea. Now, if I were doing a reading, I would think of the question as I was drinking the tea. I wouldn't be making the video. But this, as I say, is just for the purpose to show you what I do and how I learnt to interpret symbols intuitively. So once we finished our tea, you can see I've left a drain in the cup there. What we do, we take the teacup in our non-dominant hand. Now that is the hand in which you don't write, or sometimes called your feminine hand. And with the liquid in the bottom of the cup, we swirl anti-clockwise 3 times and invert it onto the saucer, like so. Now, leave the teacup there to let that liquid drain away, which normally takes a minute, 2 minutes. It's not a great amount of time. Please excuse me. I've drunk that tea too quickly. All the while thinking of the question that you have. Okay, once the tea has drained, we can pick up the cup and we can begin to read. So when reading the tea leaves, the way I read, and as I say, I've seen many different schools of thoughts on this as well, so I'm not saying that my way is correct. I look at the handle of the cup, and directly down from the handle of the cup would be relating to myself. And this symbols that appear here relate directly to me, to my home life, to my work life, and things that are going on at the minute, people that are around me. Okay. From there, coming to the right of the cup and moving away are events that have happened in the past that are contributing to the situation. So in my cup here, again, I've never asked a question. So I'm not expecting an answer, but in my cup here I can see in the bottom there a cherry. A cherry to me is a symbol of love, of a gift of love. Now that's towards the bottom of the cup. Symbols that I find in the bottom of the cup, or more directly involved with the situation. Symbols at the top of the cup are what have led to the situation coming forward. So an easy way to describe that, anything that I find at the top of the cup, I feel has led to this to change or to enhance or to influence the way the situation is at the moment, whereas things at the bottom of the cup are things that have been around, that have been uncontrollable, and that are with the situation. So again, as I say, I would read the cherry. I see that as a cherry myself, and I would read that in that way. Moving to the right of the cup, this is what I see as things to come, or things that are currently happening and are going to happen or may happen. So moving this round, I can see a crescent moon there. This I see here is a crescent moon, and a crescent moon to me is a sign of change, seasonality, things going through cycles, constant sort of change, a never-ending change, which is how I would read that. Now that's predominantly filling that cup there, as you can see, and to me I can see that, to me, because it is so prominent, I would say that there was a big change coming, if I were, as I say, doing a reading. So those are the only symbols I actually have on the side of the cup there. And I feel that's because I've had to do everything one-handed. Normally it's a lot easier when you have two hands to pour properly and to swirl. In the bottom of the cup, these are things that I normally see as obstacles. And for me here, I read quite intuitively, and I look at the pictures in the way I see them. And to me, I see a lady releasing a bird, a dove. And to me, that's a sign of letting go of something, of becoming free. An obstacle that I would feel that I may have faced because of this. If the question had asked been sort of an obstacle, I may have had trouble letting go of something, and I've been holding on to something or clinging to something, hoping that things would change, and not releasing it, which is what I would take from that personally. But again, I did not ask a question in my cup, and what I find is if I don't ask a specific question, the leaves don't. They may form a few symbols, but they don't tend to form an in-depth reading. I find the best way to divine with a cup and tea leaves is to ask a specific question. With the cup itself, traditional meanings, when you first pour your tea, if there are bubbles on the surface of the tea, it normally denotes a sign of money coming to you. And when you pour your tea, the tea leaves themselves, not the herbs, but the tea leaves themselves, if they rise to the top of the cup and float there while it's being poured, it often means there's a sign of visitors coming, or that you'll have guests in the near future. It's also been said that the number of leaves that are floating indicates how many days or weeks it will be before those guests arrive. So if we had 4 tea leaves floating there, we could say that you would have a visitor within the next 4 days or the next 4 weeks. Again, this is the way that I read leaves, and it's the way that I learnt symbology, and the way that I found my own intuitive symbolism. It's not perfect. I'm not saying that I'm completely correct, because there are many different ways to do things, but this is intuitively the way that I do things, and it was just a video that I wanted to make because somebody had asked me about it. I hope you all enjoyed watching it. I'd love to see how you divine and the methods of divination you use. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing to my channel. It's been really lovely getting to know some of you. If you do want to ask any questions, because I know it may not have been very clear as I never plan my videos, I always go with the flow, and I sometimes miss things out. So if you do want to know anything, please leave a comment down below. I will answer them. It might not be immediately because of my job, but I will answer those comments. For now, blessed be.